Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Not Everybody Needs a Podcast with your host, Mackenzie Rensher. Hello, guys. How are we doing? I put out that episode from last week yesterday, the one that I was so close to not putting out. After I was crying at the end of last week's episode, I was sitting outside and I was like, I might have to trash that episode. And we were filming on a Friday, I believe, and it was just, we had different schedules. Our producer needed us to film on that day, or maybe we got back late. I forget what happened, but we were just filming later. And it comes out on a Monday. And I was like, well, we might just not have an episode for Monday because I just feel like I look crazy, or like, was I even making sense? And even watching it back, I just had a little bit of like, I guess like fear that people are going to be like, girl, like, are you okay? I don't really know what I thought, but I am so glad I did because I had a really good response from you guys, and you guys were like, I also was feeling this way today. And I don't know, everything happens for a reason. And I actually was praying. I actually don't know if I believe everything happens for a reason. So I don't know why I just said that, but I think that God uses everything for good. And I hope that that's what happened with that episode. And yeah, I feel very grateful that I ended up putting that out and that you guys could feel normal or just feel seen in that moment. And a lot of you guys said that you also deal with overthinking, and I was laughing watching it back, being like, Darian did the whole outro because I was just like, I have to leave this area right now because I don't know what it is about crying. I think that it's probably I don't know if it's an insecurity thing or what, but I think it makes me feel very, I don't know the word. I just don't like, I guess weak. I think that's the word I'm looking for. It makes me feel weak, and I don't like to feel that way. And it's definitely something that I'm working on. I've been crying so much lately, so I have no option but to work on it and to feel like, you know what? Crying is not a weakness. And it's funny because I think this is how life goes in general. But if any of my friends said that to me, I would be like, it is totally okay to cry. It's good to cry. It's not weak to cry. And then it comes to me and I'm like, wrap it up, girl. So, you know, I'm working on it, whatever. Been crying so much. I feel like I'm becoming a very like soft girl. I don't know what that means. You know, take with that what you will. Do with that what you will. I don't know the saying. You guys also were cracking me up because we did not know what that green eye, blue eye thing was. God, what was it? A Punnett square? I think that's what it was ended up calling, a Punnett square. And I had all my friends text me, girl, a Punnett square. I was like, I'm sorry that I remember something that I learned in 4th grade. Like, send help. I am shocked that Darian didn't know because he's usually remembers everything like that. But anyway, so happy I put that episode out. I feel like I'm actually able to put words into how I was feeling, and I'm feeling much better this week. I will tell you that. I don't know if you can tell in my soul that I'm feeling a lot lighter and brighter and just like overall peaceful and joyful. And isn't that life, guys? You know, it's an ebb and flow. But I think last week, and I can finally talk about it without crying because I'm working through it or whatever. I think last week, what I was trying to put words to was I'm a chronic overthinker. And anytime I'm about to make a decision, I act like it's life or death. Like, I don't know why it is. I think that I'm like gonna knock God's will off my life and I'm gonna mess everything up. And I don't know. I just think that I'm always worried I'm gonna mess something up, or I'm looking outside because it's actually been raining for a week straight here. I'm not kidding. And whatever, I'll talk about that in a second. Y'all know I can't keep my thoughts straight. And also, y'all crack me up with me putting my coffee mugs on my white couch because it's like, should I be doing that? Probably not. But like, sorry, you're just gonna have to sit there, and if it falls, like, whatever. It never has though. I always have faith that it's not gonna fall, and listen, it hasn't yet. Also, these colors just really go together. Sorry if you don't watch on YouTube, but like, whatever. Going back to what I was saying, I basically just overthink so much that it causes me to be like, I'm going to mess something up. I'm missing the point. And I think last week, the thoughts of like, you don't get it were just ringing in my head. And I think it was obviously hard for me to say in the moment because I was emotional, but just the thoughts of you are missing something. You don't get it. You don't hear from God. you're going to mess something up was just like going. And normally I'm just like, I'm going to God and I'm like, listen, I quiet these thoughts. Like if this thought is from you. But I think last week, that day specifically, I was just very much in my head about it. And 2 Corinthians 10:5 says we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And that has been so helpful for me because I have so many thoughts a day that I'm like, I just know those are not my thoughts. Like, first of all, my intrusive thoughts go crazy. I talked about it in my OCD episode, like how I'll just be going over a bridge and I'm like, the bridge is going to fall. And I literally think it's like a sign from God. I'm putting quotations because it's clearly not, but a sign from God that was him telling me the bridge is going to fall and not to go over it. Or just certain things like that. And it's like, clearly that's not a thought from God. And we have to take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ and submit it to the Lord. And I think last week I was having a hard time doing it that day. And I was just like feeling very defeated. And Darian and I had a conversation. I think it was the night after the podcast or maybe like 2 nights after. Also, somebody commented that I touch my nose a lot. And now I'm like in my head about it, bro. Like I'm going to be like every episode checking to see it, but I just touch my nose. Like, okay. But like sometimes my nose gets itchy. And also it is like, I think, you know how certain people have like tics when they're talking? Like if you're, also you have to like, mind you, I'm just talking to myself for 30 minutes or 45 minutes during these episodes. So I'm just like scratching my ear or like looking around, touching the mic. Okay. It's just like a silly little habit. I don't know why I do it. Anyway, my nose did just itch. Anyway, I'm like, stop. I basically was just having a hard time that day. The voices felt very loud and felt very true. And I think what I'm learning right now is that as a creative, there's so much trust that you have to have. And by creative, we're all creatives. I'm not just saying that because of like what we do for work or whatever. That's not what I think creative is. I think all of us have creative things that, you know, we have special gifts and things like that. And when you're stepping out and using those gifts and doing something that you feel passionate about, and it feels like just intimidating, and there's so many what ifs. What if this doesn't work out? What if people hate this? What if something that I'm passionate about doesn't transfer to people? And if you live your life just wondering, this is like such common advice. I don't think this is groundbreaking by any means, but I just am saying it out loud. If you live your life in the what ifs, you're going to feel paralyzed. And all I can do, and Darian actually talked about this verse last week where it says, well, I don't want to butcher the verse. I actually have it pulled up because I wanted to reference this. I meant to write it down, but the Philippians 4:6-7, he references. Oh, that's not it. I lied. I'm sorry. Hold on. Oh, Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways, submit to him and he will make your path straight. So like in this season of my life, and he kind of told me that he felt like that was a family verse for us. And I feel that now where it's like, submit to him and he will make your path straight. And there's also a verse that talks about how you make your plans, but God gives you the steps. And again, I probably butchered that, but something along those lines. Like he will give you the steps. You can make your plans, but like ultimately God's going to guide your steps. And so right now I feel like I'm making a lot of plans, but I need God to guide my steps. And I'm doing that daily, and it's a practice. And it's also, it's just like a lot of learning and trusting and, And also while I'm doing that and really trusting God and not just like letting every thought come through my head and just being like, oh, was that from God? Was that not? Like, it's just like chaos when you do it that way. And actually being like, Becca and Kason are upstairs yelling. Darian's upstairs with him. Shout out. But when I'm doing that, and as I learn that, I become even more creative. Like I feel more passion and creativity running through my blood than I have in so long. And I think it's a mix of that and also just like actually taking a Sabbath, because for a while I thought, if I take a break and I take 24 hours and I just like am not on my phone and whatever, it is going to make me feel less creative. I'm going to have less ideas. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. That was not the case. And that is so, I just feel like that speaks to trust. And I don't know. It just feels like right now I'm in a really good place with everything, which is funny because last week I was like, but isn't that life? Isn't that life? 4 days later, and I'm like, I feel creative. I feel free. And so, yeah, I'm just trusting God to guide my steps. Also, I feel like I just want to say this. If you guys listened to the first few episodes of this podcast, not even the first few, but just in general, like when you first started listening to this podcast, this is not a Christian podcast. And I'm not saying that, I'm saying that because that it's not the plan, but I just talk about like either what I'm going through, what's going on in the world. And like when you have God as number one in your life, it's like impossible not to talk about him. And so that's kind of like, I don't know. I just feel like I need to say that because there's a lot of Christian podcasts and I'm still going to talk about other things, you know, and it's not solely that. I hope that even if you aren't a Christian and you listen to this, that it feels encouraging and not a non-judgmental space to learn and grow. And yeah, I just wanted to say that this isn't really the plan, but I feel like naturally I'm going to talk about that not every once in a while. I feel like I talk about every episode just because it's a natural thing in my life. And yeah, even if you meet me on the street and you ask for advice or whatever, I'm going to bring up God because it's like impossible not to whenever I feel like that's the biggest part of my life and how I choose to live life. And that is number one. And so, yeah, I just feel like I need to say that. I also just started another series of doing Soft 30. So I'm doing half a gallon of water every day. I'm taking my vitamins every day. I am moving my body 4 times a week. And for me, that means like workouts, yes. But like if that means I go on an hour-long walk, then I go on an hour-long walk. It's kind of just like whatever, but at least 4 times a week. Even if it's a Sunday at 9 p.m. and I haven't hit that 4th one, I'm going to make it happen. I'll do it at home workout, whatever. It's just committing to 4 times a week doing that because whatever. And then what was my last one? Sticking to my reading plan, even if it's like a few verses a week. If you're not a Christian, you can, if you want to do this too, you can just read a book that feels helpful to you. And yeah, so, and eating 80-20, that was the 5th thing. So that means 80% of the time I'm eating whole foods with great ingredients and that will help nourish my body. And the other 20% I can eat whatever I want. And that helps me not think about food too much because I feel like your brain can get very consumed with food. And I don't know, I don't want to be like, I can't have this one thing because then I fixate on like, if I said no chocolate, I can't have chocolate and I'm going to really want chocolate. So I'm just not going to do that. I'm just going to say 20% of the time, which is equals to like 3 meals a week. I can eat whatever I want. So I'll pick my 3 meals. And if I haven't, then I'm going to get a salad at the restaurant. I'm sticking to it, folks. So today's like my first full day. Yesterday I posted a video and I did say that was my first day, but I was home alone with the kids and running around and I did not get to half a gallon. So I'm really starting today. So cheers to that. If you guys want to do that with me, I felt like I had this idea because 75 hard is amazing and I would love to do that at some point in my life, but it's not doable for this season of life. And I think I have a lot of people that would relate to me on that, where 75 hard is basically where you do 75 days of, you stick to a diet, you drink a gallon of water a day, you read 10 pages of a book a day, and then you do 2 workouts a day. And I think there's one other thing that I'm forgetting, but that's just not doable for me right now. 2 workouts a day. One has to be outside. Like, I'm just not like running in the rain in this season of life and I can barely get 1 workout in a day. Darian would, if he was here, I'm sure he'd have something to say about that. LOL, if you watched last week's. But anyway, I am excited about this because I have not been prioritizing this area of my life. And I feel like I've talked about this too, where I feel like if I have one area of my life in order, then it feels like all of the other ones are like failing or something. And lately I feel like, okay, I've had like work down, but now I've like just been skipping out my workouts. And so guys, Soft 30, I'll keep you guys updated on how that's going. This weekend, one of our best friends, we talked about this on last week's episode, that he was competing. And you guys, Jason won the CrossFit Games. So Jason is Darian's best friend. They've been best friends for probably like 10 years now. And Grace Ann has been my best friend for like 7 years now, since our senior year of high school, which, why has it been that long? I'm so scared. Wait, that's been 8 years ago. Oh, no, I feel ill. That's crazy. But, which is so funny because actually whenever Grace Ann and I became friends, Darian and I weren't dating and Jason and her weren't dating. They were on and off since middle school, but at the time of us being friends, they weren't together. And so it's funny how Darian was separately best friends with him. I was separately best friends with Gracie, and then Darian and I started dating, and then they started dating again, got married. We got married. Amazing. But anyway, we are throwing a surprise party for him because he won the CrossFit Games. We're throwing it tomorrow, so this will not be out yet, obviously, or I would not want to ruin the surprise. But I'm so excited, you guys. First of all, I was home alone with the kids because Darian was in Syracuse whenever the games was happening. Was it Syracuse? No, Alabama. Sorry, he was at Alabama. And LOL, Daniel having to tell me that. Daniel's our producer, so if you ever see me talking to somebody behind the screen, that's who it is. Shout out to him. He's the only reason why these cameras work and that this thing ever gets to the internet, because I have no idea how to work cameras. And moving on. So anyway, he was in Alabama, and so I was like, oh my gosh, wait, Jason's last, what do you call it? Thing is his last workout. It's not what it's called, but he had his last thing and we were watching, and it was like the last 10 seconds before his last, do you know what they're called? Event. Yeah, event. I guess you could call it. His last event is now. And so I click on it and it goes, Jason Hopper going over the finish line. Jason Hopper, the fittest man on earth. Because if you win the CrossFit Games, that's what it is. It's the fittest man on earth. Like, you should see what they have to do. Anyway, craziest thing, he won. We're so happy for them. I literally felt like, I think my kids were scared of me because I was screaming, Jason won! He won! He's been working so hard for years and years and years and years. And like, this is like the greatest accomplishment that you can get from all of this sacrifice. And Grace Ann has sacrificed so much, and I'm so happy for them. And so I have a lot to do between now and then. Okay, tomorrow I need to figure out who's going to blow up these balloons. I want to print out some pictures of like the last year of him working hard. And yeah, we're going to make it happen. Grace Ann we're doing it at one of our best friend's art studios, he has an art studio downtown Greenville, which is where we live. And we're throwing it there, and I'm going to do balloons. We have a cake that says fittest man on earth. Craziest thing. I'm so happy for them. And yeah, I'm trying to think about what else that I can give you guys like a life update on. This will be a little bit shorter of an episode because Darian has to leave and I have to run errands because, again, he has been gone, and this is my last window of life before I just meant like last window of the day before I can go run errands super quick. I need to go get an organizer because that's not what it's called. It's, you basically print and it will, like, you can put like, the first thing I thought of was beans and rice. Basically, you could like label stuff in your pantry with it. It prints off, like you can type in like label maker. Yeah, it's a label maker. And you can basically type in like, I'm basically using it for the garage where I can put like miscellaneous or giveaway stuff or whatever, and I'll label the bins and it'll keep our garage organized. Y'all are gonna freak when you see the before and after of our garage. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. Anyway, I'm gonna do a Mackenzie's mindset. We did not get to one last week because of obvious reasons, and I would love to get one this week. So Mackenzie's mindset is a segment that I do every single week besides last week, where I give you guys my mindset on your questions, concerns, anything you want advice on. You guys can send them in to Not Everybody Needs a Podcast on our actual page on Instagram, or you guys can DM me. It's just it's hard to filter out the DMs on my actual page, but if you do it on the podcast page or the TikTok page, that just reminded me I need to go check the TikTok page DMs because I've not done that in a while, but I did check our Instagram DMs last night. So let's get to today's first Mackenzie's mindset. All right, first Mackenzie's mindset. Hi, I have a 2-part question. Do you think smoking or stuff like that makes you ungodly? I think that's something I'm struggling with right now. I feel like I've never been so close to God in my relationship with him, but like people kind of denounce it and be like, well, you're not really following him and worship him because you still smoke and stuff. I just feel like, how can someone else tell me what my relationship is with that, or that I'm not good enough to have a good relationship with him? Now, I love this question because it's honest, and I think you genuinely are like open to learning, and I think that's beautiful. Now, the Bible does talk about being sober-minded. When you say smoking, I'm assuming you're talking about weed. The Bible talks about being sober-minded, and you could look up verses on that. And I just do want to say, like you said, how's anyone to tell me what my relationship with God is? 100%. I agree with that. And God looks at the heart. Now there is a Bible verse about God looks at the heart, but man looks on the outside. And I think this is an important thing to submit to God and ask him what he feels about it. Because the Bible also talks about how people may feel convicted. Somebody may feel convicted about something, and another person, it's totally fine for them to do. But if you feel convicted about it, then it's wrong for you to do. So for example, and I'm not talking about like blatant sin. Like you can't be like, well, I don't have conviction about sleeping with my boyfriend before we get married. So it is what it is. The Bible's pretty clear that, is a blatant sin. But with things like this, where it's like the Bible doesn't say don't smoke weed. It does say be sober minded. That's like kind of where you have to be like, all right, Lord, if this is something that grieves your heart, then help me feel convicted about it. And I submit it to you, and being willing to like actually be submitted and give that up if that is something that you feel convicted for. Going back to the verse where I was talking about how man looks on the outside and God looks on the inside, that is something to keep in mind. If you are proclaiming that Jesus is Lord, but your actions are not aligning, or if it could cause somebody else to stumble, then it is an important thing to be like, it's not worth it. And actually wonder to yourself, like, is smoking worth either grieving the heart of God or making people not feel, or making people feel confused because it's like, oh, well, I don't feel like your actions are lining up to the fact that Jesus is Lord. So I just think ultimately, I love this question. And I say, pray about it, ask for conviction, ask for clarity. And I believe that when you seek God, you will find him. And there's a lot of verses on that as well. And just seek him, ask him how he feels about it. And also being open to if he actually was like, I almost said your name. Sorry, girl. Won't out you like that. And if he actually is saying, this isn't my best for you, then being able to submit that to him is very important too, because there's plenty of times that I'm like, God, how do you feel about it? And he's like, I don't think that's what's best for you. And I'm like, well, I don't think I'm going to give it up because it's not a sin. So actually being open to giving that up. And yeah, well, guys, today wraps up I think it's like the 35th episode of Not Everybody Needs a Podcast. I genuinely cannot even tell you how much I appreciate every single message, every comment. I don't know. I think that people look at numbers and I've been trying so hard not to care about numbers and whatever, and actually focus on like what matters. And if I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I feel like I am, and this is something that I am supposed to be doing, and that's what I've been trying to focus on. But also, like, anyone that watches and anyone that comments or supports or whatever, thank you so much. And I appreciate you guys. I see your messages and they mean the world to me. And yeah, I'm just very thankful. If you guys watch on YouTube, subscribe right now, because we're like 300 away from 40,000 that I'm doing a huge favorites giveaway. So subscribe now. And I was going to say, and I'll do something for you, but like, it's only one person's going to win the giveaway, but like, it could be you. So subscribe now and comment done. And that will submit you. And then also, if you guys are watching on Apple or Spotify, you guys can follow along there as well. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you next Monday with a new episode of Not Everybody Needs a Podcast. Goodbye.